Hey guys, out here on the porch again. It's Friday night. It's pretty late, at least for me. It's about, in fact, it's right at 11 o'clock right now. Way past my bedtime. But I got to thinking today, usually we'll start off with a cigar. So, I'm smoking tonight a Los Statos Deluxe. As you can see, it's a Connecticut wrapper. I think it's got a Nicaraguan binder and the filler is also Nicaraguan. It came in this paper tube here. It's kind of fancy. It was also wrapped in white, looked like tissue paper. What's funny is it's not that expensive a cigar with all that wrapping and all, but pretty cool wrapper, purple and black. Oh, it's kind of neat. I think it's made by Room 101. It's an old brand that they supposedly brought back from what I read, but um, I don't know. Anyway, it's uh, it's a little, I guess, because of the Connecticut. It's kind of creamy. Almost a little. When I first lit it, it was almost a little sweet, like it was infused. It's not, but it was like a weird, very sweet flavor. A little bit of cinnamon, spice, and pepper. Almost a little flowery. I smoke a lot of Maduros, so it's just a lot lighter, I would say, but it's pretty good. But of course, I'm pairing it tonight with. I've got some dark that is some Old Forester single barrel strength, the blue label. I'm sure you've seen that. This is a public store pick. These are usually not all the time. I think they're usually in some kind of a store pick or pick of some kind. This one's from Publix. I had one from Winn Dixie. I've got another bottle in there. I can't remember where it came from, but these about a couple of years ago you couldn't hardly find them, but now you pretty much see them a lot. Um, they're pretty good. It's a little hot. This bottle here, I think they vary in the strength because it's barrel strength. This one's 129.6 proof. Um, it's kind of like typical Old Forester, a little bit banana. It even smelled a little bit like it just then. Kind of chocolatey spice, like a dark cherry maybe. It's kind of weird, but I like it. But the only problem with these bottles is they're kind of hot. I know some people like that high proof, but that's about 130. It's a little high for me, but but it's good to have sometimes. I've got I've got the rye barrel strength. I've never had the black label. I'd like to try one of those, but I've never even seen one. So one day I'll come across one. So, but so on my job, I cover two offices. Got it, and one in both in North Florida, but my other office is a little bit of a drive. It's almost 2 hours to get down there, so the day's a little shorter because I got a lot of drive time. But so a lot of times that drive, it's kind of a back road, so you have a lot of time to think. And got to thinking about an old friend of mine that I haven't seen in many years. We were friends as kids. He grew up down the street from me and went to high school together. He was about 2 years older than me. So like when I was in 10th grade, he was a senior. Um, but we were pretty much best friends. He used to hang out a lot, and as I said, my wife and I were together in high school, and and we had a pretty good friend group. But he had this girlfriend, And she was kind of crazy. She was fun to hang out with. You know, for us, like as couples, like when we all went out. But she was nutty as heck, man. And she was probably a lot of fun, if you know what I mean, because usually them crazy ones are fun, but they'll cause you a lot of heartache. And she did. They dated for a long time, and then another girl in our friend group passed away in a car crash. So we all went to the funeral, and at that funeral, she met. I think she had met him before, but hadn't really been around him. And this was the girl that died was his girlfriend. And long story short, she met him at this funeral. This other guy started calling him to console him. And next thing you know, she broke up with we'll call him Matt, to go out with his other guy. And it broke his heart. I remember I was working a job where he can come up and talk to me at the time, and he'd come up there and be all upset. And I'd tell him, dude, I mean, don't worry about it. I mean, she don't move on. I'd be, and he was mad at the other guy. I said, you need to move on from her. But I think he loved her. I think he did, because what happened was when other guy, kind of a good looking guy, fit, this other friend Matt really was not. Looking back, he was a little bit of a loser. Nice guy, but I hate to say that, but just not like the other guy. Well, the other guy got tired of her, ended up dumping her, as you could predict when he was done with her. And I remember my friend coming up there, Matt, telling me, hey, man, I think they're about to break up. I'm like, dude, you don't want to get back with her. You really don't. So I try to talk him out of it. Next thing I know, they're back together for about a week. And next thing you know, he marries her. He comes to tell me, hey, I'm getting married. I said, to Missy? He goes, yeah. I said, man, I tried to talk him out of it as a friend should. I told him all the reasons why that was a bad idea. To me, that her actions already showed her character. And on top of that, she was just crazy. I'll give you an example. So they were dating and living together. She lived with him. I don't remember if she lived with him full time, but she was staying there and at the apartment. And one day he called me and told me, he goes, man, that girl's crazy. I said, why? He goes, I came home from work, used to work in the evening. She worked during, I don't know if she worked or not, but she was there during the day. Came home, got changed, fixed him a sandwich, watched TV for like hour, 2 hours, 2 hours. And all of a sudden, she jumped out of the end table. They had an end table with a big door on it. She was kind of a little gal, and she fit in that end table. And she jumped out and scared him. And like he asked her, why were you hiding in there for 2 hours? I could see, playing a joke when you came home. But he asked her, and she goes, I wanted to see what you did when you came home. This was before, cell phones and things like that. So it's not like he could call her when he got home. He didn't really know where she was. He cell phones. He figured she was at her parents' house or with friends or something. But that was just crazy. My wife and I remember we still laugh about that. Because like I said, she was fun to hang out with, like in a group. She'd make you laugh. She always had something crazy, but she was also kind of a pain in the ass. So fast forward, so after I couldn't talk him out of getting married, he got married. We were in the wedding and all that, and I married probably I'm going to say 2 years. This was a long time ago. I can't remember. I'm going to say, let's say 2 years. Um, she didn't have a car. I don't think she had a job. He got an apartment in walking distance to where he worked. He had a job with an insurance company, and he would walk to work and leave her with the car that he had bought before they were married. It was if you remember those, the Chevy Berettas. Um, he got some sporty version. It was kind of, back then a cool looking little red car, but it was those little Berettas. He loved that car. So one day I was a policeman. I was off. I was in patrol still, but that was when I first started. And he calls me, and he at the house. My wife and I actually still lived in an apartment, and he said, "She's gone, man." He was all, I could tell he was upset. I said, "Who? What are you talking about?" "Missy, she's gone." I said, "All right, I'll be over in a little bit." So I got dressed, drove over there, and I walk in his place. Well, first of all, his car's not there, but I knew he just called me. So I went on up to the door. Door was unlocked. I go in, and he's sitting on the floor in the corner with his little tie on, all pitiful, with his hands on his knees, kind of like this, hanging his head low, and looked like he'd been robbed. You know, I remember the first thing I thought of, if you ever, I'm sure you've all seen the Grinch cartoon where Grinch goes and cleans the house out, and all that's left is hooks and some wire. Remember that part? It's kind of what it looked like. It was crazy. She took the silverware. She emptied the refrigerator. The only thing she left was his clothes. She took the bed, all the furniture. I mean, everything. Pictures on the wall, toilet paper, condiments. I mean, it was crazy. It was like somebody had actually moved out completely, and the only thing left was his clothes. And the thing is, she had no reason. They weren't fighting, no nothing. And I said, "Mike," I said, "is she seeing somebody else?" "No, no, of course not." Well, of course she was. Um, anyway, I called my wife and told her, I said, "Hey, go to the store and get you everything you need to start off a new apartment, a new life." She goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Go get groceries, go get ketchup, salt, pepper, get some cheap silverware, um, get him some food." I told her, Missy left him. And so she did. She got all that. She went to the store and brought it over a few hours later. In the meantime, I loaded Matt up in the car and went over to Missy's parents' house, because I said, "I'll bet she's at her parents' house." And sure enough, I said, "You have an extra set of cars." She took his car. And no note, no nothing. So we went over to the house, and there the car was parked in the driveway. I said, "Well, Matt, go take that car, and we're going to go back home." So we did, and she ended up calling him all mad that he took the car. It was just a crazy thing. But, I felt bad for him. But it's one of them things, as I watch, if you watch YouTube, or you see nothing but, how marriage is bad for men, and you shouldn't be married. Women are this and women are that. And I suppose, just like anything in life, there's a little truth in that. But I think if you are paying attention, there are some signs that you probably should have saw. If there's a group of people that makes bad decisions with women, it's policemen. and every one of them will, have all kind of excuses when it doesn't work out. But looking back, when you think about it, you could have predicted it when they tell you, "Hey, I'm getting married," or you hear so and so's getting married to so and so. You go, "That's not going to last." That's just. um, but for whatever reason, sometimes we get blind, or we ignore huge red flags. Um, and not always even with the women, with the men. Like that guy does not want to be married. That's not his. You just know him, and that's not his thing. But a lot of times, it's with her activities, the things she says and does, the things that she's done. Of course, people always change and they grow up, and you should give people a chance. But um, at the same time, the best predictor of the future is the past. So, um, but this guy, he went on after this. Um, I didn't see him. It was a few years later. He calls me out of the blue one day and goes, "Hey, I'm getting married again." I was like, "To who?" And he had found some other gal, and she lived way outside of town, out in the country, and he invited my wife and I to the wedding. So we went. I think we went to dinner with them once, and I remember telling my wife, I'm like, "That's kind of weird." She was very nothing wrong with it, but super. She was one of these. I don't remember what religion, but like think of a out in the country Baptist. Um, very went to a little tiny church and was very wrapped up in that. And the thing is, he wasn't very religious at all. I mean, I don't think he ever. I think he was born Catholic or something, but he never really went to church. It wasn't his thing. And I remember thinking that's kind of weird. And of course, she had like 2 or 3 kids. And I remember thinking, what in the world, dude? But again, I'm happy for him. So after they got married, I didn't hear from him for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And one day he calls out of the blue and goes, "Hey, I haven't seen y'all in a while. Me and I forget what her name was. We want to, was thinking maybe we should all go out and have dinner." I said, "Yeah, that'd be great, man. I hadn't seen you." And about 2 days, we made plans for the weekend. And about 2 days later, he calls me and he goes, and he's kind of like something's wrong with him. I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Yeah, we're not going to be able to go to dinner. I really don't have any money." I was like, "You don't have any money?" I said, "That's okay, man." I said, "Well, we'll get dinner." My wife, we were both working full time, making pretty decent money with no kids and all that at the time. I said, he goes, "Well, I adopted her girls. She had 3 girls." I'm like, "You did what?" "Yeah, I adopted them." I said, "Man," I said, "Well, let's go to dinner." I said, "Let's go out. Let's plan." I said, "Let's keep our plans." And then he called me the next night and said, um, whatever her name is, said that she doesn't think that we should go if we can't, shouldn't get y'all to pay. So we're not going. I said, "So she told you you're not going?" "Well, yeah." I'm like, I said, "Dude, that's not how it's supposed to work." Um, but like most men today, he just folded and did what she told him to do. And I've never heard from him again to this day. And it was kind of strange. I always wondered what happened to him. I wonder if he's still married. I wonder if he raised them girls or he ended up divorcing and then because he adopted them, having to pay child support on them. I don't know. Just bad decisions. But I don't. I just got thinking about him today. And here's a funny story about Missy. So just before I left the sheriff's office one day, because I had the same phone number, like back towards the end when they got married and all. By then we had gotten some cell phones and back Singular. I don't know if you remember them before AT&T. And my wife and I, it's funny, we got consecutive phone numbers. because that long ago, because cell phones were so new. Um, but so I still have the same phone number, and I I get a phone call, and it's some girl whispering, and at the time I was dealing with a lot of we were doing human trafficking, so we dealt with a lot of prostitutes and things like that, who sometimes would call you and whisper because somebody was listening. And so at first I thought that's what was one of our girls that we were dealing with, and she goes, "This is Missy." I'm like, um, "Okay, yeah." And she goes, "You remember me?" I said, "Yeah, I remember you." She goes, "I did a bad thing." I'm like, "What'd you do?" I can't tell you, but I'm gonna go to jail. I said, "Okay." She goes, "Well, I want to turn myself into you." And now, mind you, it's probably been at this point well over 20 years since I've talked or even seen her. Um, and I said, "Okay, but tell me, what did you do? What is going on?" She wouldn't tell me. "I can't. I'm embarrassed. I can't tell you." I said, "Okay." She goes, "I will call you tomorrow, and you can come arrest me because I know I'm gonna go to jail." I said, "Okay." So I hang up. First thing I do, of course, is call my wife and tell her, and we got a good laugh out of it. I look her up. She's got no warrants. I see where she's been arrested over the years several times for different things. Nothing serious. Um, so I don't know what she did. And the end of the story was she didn't call me back the next day. So I don't know whatever happened to her. I don't know what she did. I don't know who she did it to. Um, it was just strange, just a strange wrap up to that whole ordeal. And of course, I haven't seen Matt. Like I said, it's been again 20 years at least to get that call out of the blue from her. And to this day, my wife and I laugh about Missy, about the crazy things she did, and how much fun she was to hang out with, but probably not somebody you'd want to marry. Obviously, that panned out. Um, I think one time we saw her and the dude she ended up leaving Matt for at Walmart, and I remember thinking, "Damn, that was not an upgrade." The dude she went to, because she wasn't bad looking, she was a cute little girl, but the dude she went to, he was there. He was like you would picture today, like a fat gamer sitting sitting in their basement. That's kind of what he looked like back then. They didn't really have that back then so much, but that's what he would have looked like today. Sloppy, dumpy, and I thought, good God, she looked miserable. She looked miserable with this guy. We didn't talk to him. We just saw him, in the store and kind of went the other way. But just a crazy story. And like I said, I got to thinking, why? I see all you go through YouTube and there's nothing but a lot of anti-marriage stuff, and I get it because the whole, they're going to divorce you and take your money, and especially with policemen, they love to come after policemen with their pension because you got a permanent income. Um, it's and we're our own worst enemy with that. But I think if you find the right person, you'll be fine. Um, Now, granted, it's probably hard nowadays. I can't even imagine. And honestly, I don't know that if something happened to my wife that I'd even want to get married again, because I can't, having grown up together, we're kind of used to each other. We know what we like, we know what we don't like, and it's pretty easy, I have to say. Um, and even when we got together, we'd never really fight. I mean, we'll have disagreements, but we've never had in all the years we've been together since we were 16. We're be 56 this year. I don't. We've never had a hollering fight where where you people yell. We've never done that. Um, we don't call each other names. We don't do any of that. We've had disagreements, but um, I don't know. Life's pretty easy. I don't know how I did it or what happened, but we're very much alike. We're very much aligned. I think that helps. We were on the same page raising the kids. We're on the same page financially, um, politically, um, all the things that you hear you're gonna have problems with, and it's not like some big um, grand design I had. I just knew we were a fit back in high school, and to this day I can't imagine having got with anybody else. I mean, it's just so we care about each other. She always makes sure I got something to eat. I always make sure I take care of things for her. Um, there's none of that. You didn't do this for me, so I'm not doing that for you. All this passive aggressive stuff you see with a lot of couples, and I don't know. I guess I'm kind of rambling. I just got to thinking about my friend today and wondering what happened to him, and I just the bad decisions, um, poor matches, not seeing that this ain't gonna work when it's clear to everybody else, and not listening to people who are on the outside, um, who can see it because they don't have a vested interest. They're not trying to, get in their pants or whatever. They're not, that under that spell of that schmooey. They can clearly see um, what they're like, and what the relationship is not going to work. Um, but we get blinded like that when we're in love. We don't see it. We forget it. We think it'll work out. I'll change her, or she'll change him. Never happens. People change, but ultimately they are who they are. And that's why I say, like, right now, I don't think if something happened to my wife, I wouldn't get married again. I wouldn't even be looking, because I think it'd just be too much headache to try to find somebody who was you got along that well with. And at this point in my life, I don't want to do, I don't want to be bothered with trying to start over. But anyway, that's all I got for tonight. I know it was kind of rambling, but just got to thinking, and just understand that marriage isn't bad. Don't watch all these YouTube videos and think it gets in your head when you watch them, and you're blaming women and blaming we're both to blame when something doesn't work out. We both to blame, and there you can try to justify it all you want, but ultimately you probably should have saw the signs beforehand. You just didn't, and don't want to admit that they were there, because I think just about everybody I know I can't think of anybody I know who's now divorced that I look at their relationship or the divorce and I go, yeah, I couldn't see that coming. I can't believe that. Usually when you hear, yeah, so and so splitting up, did you hear? You go, no, but that figures. Think about it. Think about it. You probably say the same thing. Every now and then you'll hear something. We go, wow, that's crazy. But most of the time you go, yeah, I could see that. But anyway, you guys have a good evening. I'm gonna finish up this cigar. It's still pretty good. It's not, notes haven't really changed any on it. Still putting out a lot of smoke. Um, Still enjoying it. But You guys have a good evening.